What is up, YouTube? This is T Quentin1, and I love Halloween. It's my favorite holiday, mostly because it's the most socially acceptable time of the year to be super into horror, which is my favorite genre anyway. I've done videos about scary TV shows, scary books, and tons on scary movies during these seasons in the past, but today I want to talk about the medium of gaming, which, frankly, my knowledge of horror games aren't nearly as deep as my knowledge of lit and film, because that shit's scary. For a long time, I avoided it on purpose, and I don't consider myself an easy scare, at least not as an adult. But I've since mended that, and today I'm going to count down 5 video games that scared the shit out of me. Now, these don't necessarily have to be horror games. In fact, there are multiple entries on this list that are not, but it's more about scaring me in particular. Number 5 is BioShock. The BioShock series is my favorite game franchise, and while Infinite will always have my heart, the original game was an experience like no other. There are many scenes I could choose. Beating Andrew Ryan to death was disturbing. The squeals and begs of the splicers still unnerve me sometimes, and even that one glitch on PS3 that made the poster look like it was following you with its eyes, that really got under my skin when I first played it. But I don't think anything tops the first time seeing a Big Daddy in action. When Jack passes out, our first glimpses of one and of a little sister is a really white knuckle moment, but it's even worse on the attack. By this point, we've already gotten a taste of just how ironically hellish Rapture is. Atlas is giving us some exposition, sounding appropriately ominous, when we get a good look at the little sister beneath us. She's gathering atoms, singing merrily, but a splicer wants him some of that and attacks her, and then we get to see the full destructive power of the Big Daddy. Just bowel-loosening horror. The Splicer had it coming, of course. It doesn't change the fact that seeing a guy get drilled to death is fucking terrifying. BioShock is a game I've played through scores of times, and for the longest time, even though I knew it was a scripted moment, I would stay crouched and hidden until the Big Daddy left the room, because I wasn't even going to risk being seen by that thing. The horror of seeing one for the first time is only surpassed by how satisfying it was to kill one, though. Number 4 is Until Dawn. I'm glad this game has developed such a cult following because this was a really formative game for both me and my friend group, a truly unforgettable experience. So much so that the developer has been trying, and failing in my opinion, to recapture the magic ever since. One of the things I love so much about Until Dawn is that the story is basically a mix of every horror subgenre. It's kind of the horror video game in a way. There's a monster movie, a slasher, a haunted house story, even a harrowing survival tale about the harsh conditions of the mountain. And as such, there are amazing bits in this game. But I think if I had to pick one that made my blood run cold, it'd be the sections where you have to hold the controller still. Now, there is a pretty easy way to cheat these sections, but the first time through, when I had no idea what was coming, holy shit. Also, Peter Stormare's performance in the little interludes at the psychiatrist's office were creepy in a different way. A quieter sort of horror. In either case, Until Dawn is a banger that's more than earned its cult following. Number 3 is Batman Arkham Asylum. Not strictly speaking a horror game, although there are sections of it that 100% are. Of course, the world of Batman is already a dark and moody place to be, especially trapped in Arkham. I'll never forget the first time I played through one of the Scarecrow parts in the game. Even the subtle touches you don't notice at first, like Batman's white eyes slowly turning red, or the scuttering roaches on the ground that make you feel like you're visiting Asmongold's house. The music, the visuals, it's just perfect at keeping you off balance and afraid. Then, of course, there's the fake game crash later that scarred a whole generation of gamers. But it goes beyond the hallucinations, in my opinion. I've long maintained that this casually cruel version of the Joker is the most intimidating Mark Hamill has ever been in the role. And then there's the mental patients that jump out and try to choke you. For real, when I first played through Arkham Asylum at age 11, I used to mute the TV during that stretch of the game because those enemies scared me so much. Arkham Asylum is a perfect way to celebrate a long Halloween. Number 2 is Ben 10 Protector of Earth for the PS2. I feel an explanation is in order. Ben 10 was not an especially scary show, nor is it an especially scary game. The tone is pretty broad, even comedic, and while I played it at a young age, 8 years old for those keeping track, and there are some eerie moments, I always thought Ghost Freak was a scary villain, both in the show and here. But even at a young age, Nothing about the actual game design or the story presented here unnerved me. This is more about one specific incident that occurred while I was fighting the final boss, main villain of the series, Vilgax. I was getting bored and wanted to swap to a different game for a while, and Vilgax was giving a monologue about how he was going to destroy Ben when I opened my PS2 to remove the disc, all while keeping the machine on, fully expecting the game to blink off, but it didn't. I didn't really understand technology very well at the time, so I couldn't fathom how the game was still going with no disc in the machine. And Vilgax's threats about erasing me from time and space suddenly seemed like more than empty words. It's funny because it's such an innocuous thing, but back then my conclusion was the game's haunted and Vilgax is real. There's simply no other explanation. I came to my senses not long after, and I played the game like nobody's business. Seriously, that was one that I played through many times back in the day, but I will never forget almost shitting my pants on that January afternoon back in 2008. Number one, the demo for Resident Evil 7. Biohazard is a great game that reinvented Resident Evil, and in my opinion, was the only game that truly lived up to the hype that PT created, knowing we'll never see how that game turned out. But despite that, while the game is very good and very scary, there's nothing in it as chilling as the demo, at least to me. This was not a childhood experience either. I didn't play RE7 until a couple years after it came out. I was in college. I was in the mood for something different, decided to try one of the few free demos available in the old PlayStation Store, which, aside, it's so sad that they don't do that anymore. But right off the bat, the atmosphere was out of control. The derelict house that evoked memories of every ghost story I've ever heard, the gritty 70s visual overtones, but most of all, the feeling of being watched. I don't know that any other game has ever captured it so subtly. The game doesn't have to show you anything in the background, doesn't have to put little footstep noises in there. You just know that you're not alone in this place. And that's terrifying. Then, of course, there's the VHS segment that's an early example of analog horror in the gaming medium. And finally, after you're done watching the unfortunate fate of the people who entered this house before you, you turn around and catch a glimpse of one of the bakers. Just a subtle look as they're exiting the room. That image burned itself into my brain. I don't think I've ever said this before, but for a long time I had a recurring nightmare. Not really about the other stuff from RE7, but just seeing the back of that guy's head walking away. I don't know if I can really put into words why I found it so scary. I just did. It unlocked something primal in me, like the Hat Man or something, you know? Anyway, that was my list of the games that scared the crap out of me, and I hope everyone's having a great Halloween season. This is T Quentin1 signing out.